Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Podcast. I'm Lauren LaSalle, and I'm a licensed therapist, highly sensitive person, and HSP coach. This bi-weekly podcast is meant for highly sensitive people and their loved ones, as both experiences will be discussed. Thank you for joining me, and let's begin. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Podcast. I'm Lauren, and today's guest is Sophie Charlotte. Sophie Charlotte is a Life Equi Coach and helps highly sensitive women heal together with her horses, both in Tuscany and online. She's Dutch, has lived in Italy for 12 years, and has switched several careers before finding her soul path of helping other women follow their dreams and believe in themselves as a life coach, and then adding even more depth to her coaching practice by adding horses to the mix. She truly feels at home both in her personal and her professional life, and loves helping other highly sensitive women feel the same. I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Sophie. I found her story really inspiring, and I hope you do too. Here we go. Hi, Sophie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to talk to you about your experiences. So first, I'm wondering, what was your experience like discovering that you are a highly sensitive person?
Well, I think I sort of was in denial for very long. I actually discovered it, I think pretty young already, like when I was 17 or something, from someone at college, teacher training college. I used to teach English. And I was like, yeah, it totally resonates. But then, but I want to be normal and just push through and be like everyone else and then crash and burn. And then, I think I should take this into account. Makes sense. And then, but I want to be like everyone else. And, that was like a pattern of repeat, rinse and repeat for so long. And then at some point, I was like, I think I should stop doing this and really take my needs into account and really start taking myself seriously instead of trying to be like everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because it kind of made me reflect on my experience too. And I only found out about like 5-6 years ago, but I remember just in high school being like, why are certain things so much more difficult for me than other people? Just like keep pushing through. You got to be able to do it because other people can, when that's just not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also makes us feel very often wrong, or, as if we not fit in or we don't function well. And then when you do really embrace it and find other like-minded or other HSPs, and it's like, so I can be this way. And I think that's also when the healing starts and you start pivoting it and turning it into a superpower, as I think the both of us have discovered how to do, and then help other people with that. And I think that's really amazing. So that's also why a podcast like this is so important, because people need to know. I think that's one of the biggest things, to really discover and accept and embrace, I am different. It's 25 or 30% of the population. And we're the lucky few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is great getting to connect with other HSPs. And I feel like there's just kind of this immediate different type of connection, just knowing that they kind of get you in some ways that other people don't, even if you've never talked to them before.
Yes, I think we had that too, right? Because you did a little pre-interview and we just I think we even spoke for only 10 minutes, but you have this instant connection because there's no, hey, how are you? And it's superficial. No, because we don't do those things. So it's you vibe right away. And I think that's really amazing. And it makes life so much easier the moment that you choose to hang out with people like you instead of trying to fit in to this box, the 9 to 5, and try to be like everyone else. And then at home, maybe you come back to yourself. But what I've been able to do over the years is really create a life that suits my needs as an HSP. And I have many friends, and there are 4 horses and 2 dogs, and maybe one real human friend and my fantastic partner. And that's fine. I don't need to have loads of colleagues or friends, or it's like, whoa, even the thought of it would be super overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, I definitely relate to that as well. So you had told me before that you are a high sensation seeking HSP, which I have not mentioned on the podcast yet. So I'm really excited that you're here to talk about that. So what does that mean, and how does that apply to you? And what makes that different than non-HSS HSPs?
Right, yeah. And, to start with, I hate labels. And so I think that's also part of why I, for a very long time, and I think many HSPs have that, like, I don't want to be put in a box. And, but, once you do feel, okay, I belong to that sort of like description, or like it's a trait, then it's like, okay, it makes life easier. And many highly sensitive people are, were maybe called shy or and usually are very introverted and are very very little stimulation. And it's hard for me to talk about this because I have that too. And I'm also very extroverted, and I love high sensations, which means that I'm a highly excitable person. So I thrive on challenges. For example, my online coaching program is also called Take the Leap, because I love taking leaps. I love, following my dreams and really going for great adventures and not knowing how it's going to turn out. And the adrenaline thrill of that really makes me feel alive. And I also need to, have a lot of downtime and time to myself, and then regain. And I'm introverted when I'm very overstimulated. So then I'm like, okay, I can't deal with a lot of people, but I love getting on stage. Like I used to be a teacher. It was, amazing to be in front of all of these kids. But then maybe the staff room would be overwhelming, and I'd be like, no, too much. And I wouldn't want to say it adds an extra difficulty to being an HSP, but it sometimes does make you feel as if like, yeah, but I do need the stimulation, but I also need the non-stimulation. So it's like schizophrenic kind of traits, but it's not, I mean, that's just to make it into a little joke, but it is important to honor both sides, the adventure and maybe the travel, doing new things, and yes, getting on stage and being extroverted, and also having the downtime. And so it used to be a roller coaster. I used to suffer from anxiety. I really had anxiety disorder, took medications for that. And I think it was very much because of that, like not being able to honor both sides, and also maybe not really understanding, like, how does this work? Like the one moment you're like, let's go to a rock festival, you're completely feel at home. And then the next day is like, oh my God, that's too much. I want to be in nature and not see anyone. But then, it's just about embracing all parts of yourself. And at some point I've been able to, and now it's great because I work as a coach. And I love doing videos and working with groups, small groups, but I think it helps, and people say they like my energy. And so I've been able to align everything, and now, hey, this is me. And yes, I'm a high sensation, highly sensitive person. Well, look at that.
And I imagine it took some time to kind of figure out the balance between those two things, and really accepting that you need both, and you also need both kind of in moderation, I guess.
Yes. And also allow myself to go to the extremes, because I do sometimes need to hit my head, or I do sometimes like to really, well, now I've become old and wise. No, but like now living in nature is like, I don't even want to go clubbing or whatever. But I used to love that as well. And then my Sunday would be a walk in nature, right? And really not meet anyone else. So yeah, it's really about giving yourself permission to be at both ends of the spectrum, and not feel weird or different or judge yourself for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to hear your story about moving to Italy and what impact that made on your life. I know a little bit about it from posts that I've seen you make, but it sounds like it really made a huge difference.
It was life-changing because I'm Dutch, I'm from the Netherlands, and that culture is beautiful and everything works perfectly. And, I think it has to do with my high sensation seeking side. It's so perfect and so predictable that I was like, is this all there is? And every time that we went on holiday to Italy, I felt alive. I was like, I'm home. People are loud, or they're very expressive. I see myself on the video, I'm moving my hands very much. In Holland, that's weird. Just speak and be clear. And, but I am this. I am love. I'm expression. I'm creativity and warmth. And Northern European countries usually are a bit more, okay, great, let's organize everything and then be happy. Whereas here it's like, well, let's just do nothing for an entire Sunday and hang out with family and drink wine and la dolce vita, right? So the sweet life. And so many things about the culture here resonated with me. I just really felt at home. So I was teaching at a secondary school. I was teaching English, and I was in this relationship, and I had my home, and it was like, the perfect picket fence life. This is one of my dogs. And I was bored out of my wits. And that was also the period in which I had anxiety disorder. And I really felt like, okay, so this is what my life is going to look like. It's, maybe at some point you'll have children, or it's like, but for the rest. And I was like, what? I felt there was so much more out there for me. And so I asked myself, after breaking up with this person whom I'd been with for 6 years, what do you really want, Sophie? I really asked myself that, and I still ask myself that, maybe on a daily basis. And the little voice in my head said, Italy. And I was like, okay, so save money, made sure I could come back to my job if I had to. And then a year later, I was going to be here for 6 months, and in August is going to be 12 years.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. And the most amazing thing was that because I followed my dream and really, lived in alignment with my true self, I was able to stop taking medication for the anxiety disorder. And that, every time I say it or write it or share it, like, it gives me goosebumps now, because it's so big. Because for the people who suffer from anxiety, like really having a disorder, it meant that for 7 years I was like stuck in my head, and I had to take medication to function, and I judged myself for that. So doing this, it was such a big gift. And I actually gifted myself stopping taking the medication on my 2nd birthday here, because I took times like, okay, I feel really great, but let's see. And then, and I've never gone back. Of course, anxiety or self-doubt or whatever overwhelm comes, but I now have this baseline because I've come back to myself. And that's also what drives me in helping the women that I work with, whom, very many of them have the dream of moving to Italy or have moved here in the meantime, just to like really honor that. And because your life is, and it's not Italy, it's because you honor your dream. You're like, okay, yes, this is really what I want to do. I feel great here. I give myself permission to do this. And then everything else falls into place.
So what was that like for you, kind of realizing what I think I need is this really big change?
Yeah, well, many people said, I'm so proud of you for doing this. This is so cool, And I'm like, it would be so hard for me to stay. It's like, it would be a feat, or how do you say that? It would be hard. It would be an accomplishment had I been able to stay, because I was going against myself, staying there, doing, the 9 to 5, the picket fence. It was not me. So, and many people often, when I talk to them about moving here, it's very often an escape thing. And for me, it wasn't escape. It was going back home, really. And I think that's really important, because otherwise you're going to keep on escaping and look for other things. So that's also why it's very important to first have this solid base within yourself. And then, because you can move to Italy or to the Bahamas or to wherever, to the moon, but you're going to take yourself with you. So, after 6 months, a year of living in this new place, your old patterns, your old triggers, your old things are going to come back. And, so how are you going to deal with those? And so, yeah, that's really important.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that you really took the time to check in with yourself, see what you needed, and then you just went for it. And it sounds like you've never looked back.
No, and that's also become my only way how to live life. And so I've taken many other leaps. Like after I lived in Florence for 8 years, and then a year, I met my partner, and then he was like, let's go and move into the countryside. And I'm like, are you crazy? I'm going to leave my Florence. And then I thought about it more, and we did move into the countryside, and it was the best decision I've ever made. And from there, we moved here where we're now. And then I saw equine assisted coaching pop up, which had been a vision of mine when I started my coaching business, which was also a big leap because I went from teaching English and writing for a blog to coaching people at 28. And I was like, oh, but maybe I'm too young. I should have the ripe and wise age of 50 before I can even help people. And that's like, okay, that's bullshit. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that on the podcast, but it was. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I trained in Rome in Italian, which was super big, to become a life coach. And then when I started out, I had this vision of myself sitting in a field with women and horses. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then when we moved here, I saw this post of a lady, Dutch lady I know here in Tuscany, who had done this equine assisted coaching session. I was like, there it is. That's what I saw. And I went to do it myself. And it was so incredibly deeply transformational and healing. It lasted only 10 minutes, but I was like crying my eyes out, leaning on this horse. It's all groundwork. And I was like, this is it. This is like the deepening to this work. And, that's been another leap. And now I have 4 horses here in my garden, basically. And I changed careers. And it's just every time, what do I need? What do I want? And really honoring that all the time in my life is pretty miraculous. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because it's scary. But it always it turns out right because I'm honoring that nudge. And, the universe is really, helping us when we dare to take the leap.
Mm-hmm. I love how everything just kind of fell into place once you really acknowledged what you needed.
Yeah.
And from there, it just kind of kept going.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about your coaching work that you do?
Yes. Do you have an entire day? Because I love it so much, because what's so beautiful about horses is that they're very sensitive creatures. So it's like perfect for highly sensitive women as clients, but also for me as a coach, because they sense where you are misaligned. So when you come into the field first, I always do a grounding exercise meditation, because I always say it's like you're going into church. So I want you to bring a calm and respectful energy, because they're your healers. And then the most amazing things happen that maybe one of my foals, I have 3 actually, one filly and 2 boys and their mom, so they're a small family. And maybe one of them will start nudging you, or will put their nose on your heart, or maybe the mom walks off. And these kinds of behaviors then give me an indication of oh, hey, there's something going on there. So let's say the filly keeps on moving, keeps on nudging and pushing you out of balance, so that you have to take a step to the left, otherwise she's going to stand on your feet, right? So she's pushing you out of your way. So then a question for me would be, so how are you getting into your own way in life? And that might be the start. And then maybe something from the past comes up where you're like, oh yeah, that really is really blocking me. It's really holding me back. And then it's always has to do with past childhood experiences. And we go and meet the little girl and see, what's really there. And when you see it, and everybody always cries, and and the tears come, then maybe another horse shows up and comes to comfort you just standing there. And I'm speechless every time, and you can't make this stuff up. It's like, what? How do they know? And it's awe-inspiring, and it's really, I think for everyone it's really helpful, but especially for highly sensitive people, because you really feel seen, accepted, and you can just really be who you are in their loving, unconditional, accepting energy. And that's what you're a therapist as well, that's what we try to bring our clients, and they do it in such a way that it's soul stirring, and it's really such deep healing work that even one session can already bring about so much. And people also usually need a few days to recalibrate, because your nervous system gets turned upside down. And it's just like, that's why I say, do you have a day? Because I can't stop talking about it. It's so amazing.
It sounds amazing. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I want to come visit you and experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I also offer them online, which people are like, what, does that work? But it does, because your energy, I use my phone, is there, and they behave in a different way. I'm like, okay, what's going on there? So that's really cool that it's possible to do it online. But I'm sure there are many equine assisted therapists or coaches where you are, because many more people are discovering this. So if you have the chance to experience it, please do, because it's really incredible.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it. Oh, I love that so much.
Thank you.
That's such great work. I mean, it just must feel so great and rewarding.
Absolutely.
To be able to do what you really want to do and to be helping people at the same time. I mean, I guess that's what I do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that I think about it. But it's just so great when everything kind of just lines up.
Yeah. And it requires courage, people, to do that, because you're like, okay, how's this going to work out? How am I going to pay my bills? But it's when you feel the nudge, follow it, because God, the universe, source, whatever you call it, I believe that we all come here with a mission, a role, a purpose. And when you fulfill that, then everything starts flowing. And it's usually the thing that scares the shit out of you, because that's where you are really called to serve. So for everyone who's listening and they're like, oh yeah, I think I know what she's talking about, please do yourself and the universe and the people that are needing you a favor, and go and write that book and start that coaching training and paint that picture, because we need that work. I'm really passionate about that, because I really feel that it clicked so much when I started saying yes and kept saying yes. It's just life gets really interesting. Awesome.
So if people want to connect with you online, how can they do that?
I have a website, which is www.lifecoachsophie.com. I'm on Instagram, Sophie Charlotte Coach, and on Facebook, I have a really cool Facebook group, which is called The Wild Woman. And then I have my page, Life and Equi Coach Sophie. Many things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll put links to all of those in the description too, so people can connect with you more easily.
Thank you.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really loved hearing about your story, and it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I can see that you're all exhilarated, so I'm happy. It's really amazing. So thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you for the beautiful work that you do, and informing people about this beautiful trade.